You've got no audio, boss.
I've got
Try
no
again.
audio. There we go. Let's try again. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rugged Studio podcast. With me today, as always, is Hightower, and we have a very special guest as well. Joining us is Gregory from Egosoft. I'm very excited to get to speak to Greg, as he's a bit of a guru on the industry of social media and stuff like that. So we're gonna grill him today. So without further ado, let's get the gentleman involved here. Hightower, how are we today, sir?
We are wonderful. How you doing, Mike?
Do well. I'm a little sunburnt, little toasty on the old face there. Gregory, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you joining us today. I know we've spoken for some time now. We have had a couple of times where we've both had to unfortunately back out here and there. But yeah, it's nice to finally get to sit down and get to chat to you. I know Hightower there has been grilling me. He's like, "When's it coming on? When's it coming on? I want to know. I want to know all these things." I think he's just got a notebook behind there, hasn't he? He's going to be taking notes all the way through this.
I have someone taking notes for us. So.
See, he's well prepared. But no, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, let's see if I can live up to the guru introduction. That's a little scary.
You gurus compared to what I can do, so that's a plus.
I would love to start my own cult, honestly.
Now there's where the money is.
Exactly. Sorry, was that too strong for the first minute, or is that?
No, I think
where the podcast is heading. Come on, folks.
Yeah, that's generally how things end up anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't take us long. We'll get there, don't worry.
Perfect.
No, it's absolutely great to have you on. So thank you very much for doing this for us.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to just do that before I end up rubbing some bloody stuff on me there. I think that was my makeup for my character. Honestly, my desk is like a bomb's hit it. So for those of you who don't know, Greg works for Egosoft. Today's not going to be much about Egosoft because well, you can say yourself, can't you? What you do for Egosoft.
It's Sunday. I'm off the clock.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, it's work, and yeah, this is personal time now. But no, on a serious note, what you do over there is obviously a small fraction of what you've done over the time. I know you spoke to me out of this and said, but obviously some of the past history you've had, and I think that's what Hightower was extremely excited to find out about as well. So let me hand it over to you to let us know who you are and what it is you do for Egosoft, and kind of like the bigger picture, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so I'm Greg. I'm the PR and marketing manager for Egosoft here in Germany, very far west of Germany. So I'm very close to the borders of the Netherlands and Belgium. And I've been with Egosoft for almost 2 years now. So it was an interesting time to join, like 2 weeks before Gamescom 2019. Having to whip out a fast plan for what to do at the show back then. And then a couple of months later, we all moved to our respective home offices. So by now, I've been longer in a home office than in the actual Egosoft office, which nobody expected that to happen. But it's a weird twist to those first 2 years. Yeah, but so PR and marketing, that's in the title. What I actually do is a lot more than that. As you may or may not know, we're quite a small team, and there has never actually been a dedicated PR marketing guy before I joined. So that was something that burned it basically on the side with 1,000 other things that he does. And for Egosoft, it was like let's say an experiment to bring somebody in who really does this kind of stuff dedicated. And apart from that, I'm a little involved in business development too. I'm quite involved in the whole funding topic, like governmental funding for game development, and then all the social media stuff, all the classic PR, which is these days not as important as it was 10, 15 years ago, but Now it's with YouTubers like you and content creators. I like that term more. And yeah, on the marketing side, advertising, all that good stuff, social media stuff, everything.
Awesome. So for those of you who are fans of X4, you may recognize Greg's voice already. We'll get it out here straight away. Obviously, you started your own podcast recently as well. And I've listened to both of them. The first one you had obviously was with Burned, and then the second one was with Owen, wasn't it? Yes, it's Owen. I think then. Now Burned obviously is the lead developer for X4, and Owen's one of the I don't know, he's kind of a bit of a mystery, is Owen. I know he does the voice for Bosotar, but I remember talking to him on one of his streams, and he started saying, actually, I do this, that, and the other. He does quite a bit for X4 that you don't really kind of realise. I think he does some of the story missions as well, doesn't he?
Yeah. So Owen is a programmer and part of the mission team at Egosoft. And he has been in the office in Germany for quite a while. But now he, like, soon after I joined, so somewhere at the end of 2019, he decided to move back to the UK. And is working as like a kind of a service provider. I don't know if that is the correct term in English, to be honest, but like an external guy, basically. Right? We have a couple of external people, and yeah, who do all kinds of different stuff for us.
Yeah. So obviously, if you are a fan of X4, then that's definitely make sure you check it out if you haven't already done so, because it's actually a really good listen.
Thank you.
I gave you some feedback straight away. I was like, excellent. Really enjoyed listening to it. Listening to kind of what we're doing here now. Really is actually looking behind the scenes and actually realizing there's quite a lot that goes on behind things. And it's some of the stuff that we were talking off camera, and it's like, actually, I didn't realize like the stuff you've done in the past. I was like, wow. Like I shared it with Hightower, and Hightower was like, this guy needs to get on this podcast now. Sorry, go on.
I mean, I've first for the podcast, I've been a huge podcast fan myself for quite a while, actually. I remember, I have to go far back, actually, to maybe you remember that when Ricky Gervais started like a radio show at some point on Radio X or something like that, and out of that came a podcast, and that's probably the first real podcast that I was aware of, or where I picked up on the whole topic. That must have been, I don't know, early 2000s, I guess. I think it was even, I don't know if it was before or after The Office, but it was with Stephen Merchant and Carl Pilkington and all those guys. And so that's where my podcast history got started. And then, of course, like gaming podcasts, so I'm a massive fan of Giant Bomb and those guys, those ex-GameSpot people. And yeah, and then now in the last couple of weeks and months, as you know, we have had a bit of a delay with the start of the 4.10 beta for X4 Foundations, and I was thinking of how we can, put something new in motion to inform people more and have a better communication with everybody. And to be honest, like the thing with text is always that it's our approach that we want to have it out there in as many languages as possible. So we have these usual 10 languages that the game also features, that we then have stuff translated to. But that, of course, takes a lot of time. Like all these translations, or most of them, are done externally. So people have different working hours and stuff like that. So I thought, well, what can we do that's fairly easy to set up and produce, and that's the biggest part that mostly takes up my time, because my time is has kind of a different value, of course, because all the other guys are actually working on the game, and I'm the only one who's not actually working on the game. So yeah, that was the story. And it's just the cool thing is, by being a small company and Bernd being really open to ideas that I bring to him, quickly decisions, and I just started it, and we'll see where it goes. And it's been okay so far, I think. Yeah.
And it certainly seems to be going extremely well, considering it is the start of something brand new. I certainly enjoyed it, and I know a couple of people listening on it as well. And the good thing about that is you also gave chance to give back to the people as well, in terms of, like, obviously we got the sneak peek about the multiplayer side of things on the first episode and stuff. And I think this kind of ties in with one of my questions I had for you. But do you find, kind of, obviously, as we've spoken, you're a fan of X4, but you don't get a chance to sit down and play it. Do you find that sometimes it's a challenge to kind of come up with a way to not advertise, but build this social media platform around it? Because obviously, like yourself, you're going to be extremely busy with it. The last thing you could do is burn 100 hours into a game and then try and think of of something to launch with it. Did you kind of have that same kind of challenge with the podcast, or did you just find it just basically it was so fluid? Because to us, from an outside perspective, it seemed quite fluid to kind of get the information out there.
Well, it's a similar challenge for all those things that you've said, because for me, it's first I have to find out what I can actually talk about, right? Like, what is something that is currently a topic with people, both in the community as well as internally. And I mean, now for the first 2 episodes, it was fairly easy, because those 2 things, the multiverse team seasons and the custom game start, those have been worked on for quite a while. So I'm aware that is being worked on. I hear about it on a regular basis. So I know that it's coming fairly soon. So those were pretty easy topics. And then what I want to do is, like, connect those topics, of course, to the corresponding people, or to people that fit well to the specific topic. So for the custom game start, it was Owen. And yeah, so then the challenge is to not not give out too big expectations of things, because that's a thing that has happened in the past of the X series, as far as I'm aware. And but also, still give an entertaining value, because that's what it is in the end. We compete for people's time. And yeah, I mean, I like the podcast format. I know a lot of people like podcast format. Of course, some people won't like it, and I get those messages too, right? You have a couple of people who you have people who are who write to me that they can't really grasp information when they hear it, like when they just hear it, and they would rather read about it. So what I did for the second episode is that I, like, on top of the audio thing, did like at least a small summary of what was talked about, so that people can read that. And yeah, I mean, we won't have big new announcements every 2 weeks or in every episode. So I'm thinking of going to a more general chat format too, with a couple of colleagues. Ask them how they came into the X series, but also outside of that, like what other games do they like playing and stuff like that. But we'll see. I'm to be perfectly honest, I don't have a massive plan for the next month or 2 months. I'm really more or less winging it.
So a bit like what we're doing. I think we started winging it since episode 1, and we're just kind of glad you came on, because we ran out of ideas.
Why stop now?
Yeah. Why not? Let's just carry on winging it. It's all good. It's worked so far. So no, it's stuff like that you don't realize. Actually, there's a lot of thought behind it. 'Cause, like, as you said, you can't give away, massive plot things, or massive things that are going to happen in anything. And I'm not just talking about X4. It must be quite a challenge, as you say, to get the information you want out there, but not too much information out there
without over promising it too. Nobody wants to be the next Peter Molyneux.
Right.
Yeah, it must be a challenge.
Yeah. And specifically for me, I am, as I said, I'm the only one who's not really working on the game. So for me, it's like I'm this sponge that needs to pick stuff up from every other team member because everybody's working on specific things, and so. But that works fairly well, I think, and you know, it hasn't necessarily changed now that we're all working from home because you know we're doing all the communication internally, mainly over messenger apps and stuff like that. Yeah, so you know, I'm still learning after 2 years, definitely, because I'm not working on the game and I'm not a developer. You know, it's not. I've never worked on games. I've only worked with games, and it's super interesting still. I learn new stuff every day, more or less, and yeah, I hope I can keep pushing the formats that we do.
Awesome. So I'm sure Hightower probably wants to know this as well. What got you to where you are now? Like, what was the path from, you know, where Greg turned around and went, I'm going to do social media and try and tackle the public. Because I mean, no matter how you take it. So I've done retail work, I've done logistics work, you know, and I've been in the front of the general public, and obviously, I know Babe with the Power, who's Hightower's significant other, does a lot of that now for me. It's quite a daunting experience, and it's how have you got to that stage now, and how do you find that?
Well, first, I love it. It's what I always wanted to do, to be quite honest. How I got here is a rather long story. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. So I've been a gamer since I was 5, 6 years old, I guess. And I always loved reading game magazines, like old school printed game magazines. And fairly early, I would say, that kind of thing got into my head of being like my dream job, you know, like a writer basically for one of those game magazines. Those guys were my gods back in the 90s, right? and yeah, and then I started actually writing for a small website, a small German games website, and I just wrote to them, you know, hey, do you need another guy on your team? I think I can write fairly well. You know, that was one of my favorite things in school back then. And yeah, that's basically how it all started, by writing reviews and news about games. And you know, that was back then. It took a lot of time in my life, but it was not paid. You know, it was like a tiny side thing, but I lived for it, right? I mean, and my parents back then could see that I was so involved in this and so happy about doing this. So, and then the site grew a little. Then we would go to the first games convention back then. That was in Leipzig, which turned to Gamescom a couple of years later.
Really?
And yeah, so and then you know, and then I finally meet all those people. Like I meet the people behind the company names. I meet the marketing guys. I meet the PR guys. And I meet my heroes from the 90s who are running around on these events too, right? Like the game magazine writers. And
That's awesome.
yeah, that was pretty cool. Like the first couple of times on these events, seeing games months or years before they release behind closed doors, you know, getting interviews with the mentioned Peter Molyneux and guys on that level, that just completely blew my mind. And yeah, I was by that point I was fairly certain that I really want to do this for a living. I really loved it. And then yeah, I did that for a couple of years, and at some point I had the opportunity to get an actual paid job in the industry.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah,
For
at some
most
point,
people.
you know, at some point it needs to happen. And that was with what was called back then Turtle Entertainment, now ESL Gaming, and that's the biggest the biggest company for esports stuff. So doing tournaments, leagues, and by now massive offline events. Back then it was a little smaller, so that was in 2007. Counter-Strike 1.6 still, and so
Wow,
a
that
different,
is that's
almost
the way back.
yeah, it's almost like a different generation
Yeah,
of
yeah.
gamers. But yeah, so that was the actual first proper job, and did that for a couple of years. That was in Cologne, and then in 2010, I got a very exciting opportunity to move to Berlin and open up a new German office for Gameloft. And Gameloft is is one of the biggest global mobile companies from France. That was super exciting because that was two people, like me and my boss, basically opening up a new office in Germany. Back then, also a very different time where mobile games were paid for mainly, €5 something,
Yeah, yeah.
And what Gameloft did is take what they did back in that time is take popular, let's say popular game designs, so to say, or like let's say a Call of Duty on PC or consoles, and do something similar for a mobile platform for back then the first iPhones and the Android phones. And that was done with several genres, so basically giving player an opportunity to have such a game experience on a mobile device, which was pretty big back then. And yeah, so in that, I mean, that was a powerhouse, right? That was back then. There was like 5,000 employees worldwide, and like absolutely crazy stuff there. And but those were really very valuable years to learn a lot about the business. And and one of the most exciting things in my 4.5, 5 years at Gameloft was the switch then to free to play. At the end of 2011, I think, more or less, the free to play stuff started to happening.
Yeah.
And then you have to transform the company, basically, right? Because people are not going to continue paying €5 for your mobile games. Of course, people do that still, but the companies that give out paid mobile games are usually smaller, let's say, so they don't have to hit the quantities that a Gameloft would have had to hit.
Yeah.
And that was an exciting time, let me tell you. I mean, with some experiments gone horribly wrong, and then finally, learning step by step how to do free-to-play games on mobile, and in the end, having huge success with it, and they still do, as far as I follow it. And yeah, so then
I have to admit, I got a few Gameloft games on my various mobile devices to this day.
I probably
Yeah.
do, and I won't even realize it.
I mean,
I still have a Gen 1 iPad over here, so
the biggest thing that I worked on in those years, and that was a huge coup. They got the license for Despicable Me at some point, and did a runner out of those, like these runner games where you have these three
yes.
lanes, and then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
switch from left to right and stuff like that. I just a couple of weeks ago I saw a social media post by Gameloft that I hope I'm not saying anything wrong, but I think what I read was 1 billion downloads by this stage for this game. So yeah, a lot of people have
It's an
Huge
incredible
industry. It's a
milestone.
huge industry,
Yeah.
isn't it?
yeah, it's insane.
It's the biggest segment of gaming in the market today.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you're
So,
the reason why that I get loads of these Raid Shadow Legends popping up every 5 seconds. You're the spawn of that. Is that what we're saying here?
basically, yeah.
So
I
do you
see.
actually have people following you with pitchforks and torches in the street, or is it something most people have come to accept?
Trust me, it was not a fun thing to do, especially as the PR person back then, because with these pretty high quality premium games back then, we had really gathered a following and fans of Gameloft games, really.
Yeah.
And when that started to turn into free to play, things were changing, and having to spin that and move around the country and talking to journalists about what is happening, and saying why it is a good thing in the end, which I still think is. I have no problem with free to play. That was really challenging, but also very exciting when I think back.
It was sorry, Hightower. Sorry, it was a topic
No,
we
I
actually
just
had, wasn't it? It was a topic we had last podcast, wasn't it? Is that what you were about to say? Great.
I'm just gonna sit back here and let you go ahead.
Well, no, it was a
No,
topic.
that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go on.
Well, no, we spent a good amount of time talking about the impact that free to play has even on today's PC, like AAA PC games. With Ubisoft announcing they were going to add a lot more focus on freemium. I can't remember how they actually called it, but they stopped just short of calling it freemium. That the market's changing, and it must be difficult for developers like Egosoft to deal with that, and then you in a position to present that to the public, must be a challenge.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I mean, it's changing again right now with all the subscription stuff, right? That's a new concept that has been only around for a couple of years. I think, I mean, I personally, as a gamer, I have no problem with free to play. I don't play a lot of free to play games myself, but I can obviously I see the attractiveness of it for gamers, and if you look at stuff like Fortnite, I mean, it's unimaginable, right? It's you can't put that together in your head, basically.
Right.
If someone sat where you were now and said to me in, say 10 years ago, and says in 10 years time a game like Fortnite is going to take the world by storm, I'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever. People aren't going to play cheap ass free to play games. How wrong am I?
Oh, yeah.
It's as you say.
I mean, 10 years ago, I would have told you, well, I've been playing Star Trek Online for a few years, and that's kind of free, and
it is now. It went. See, you mentioned, Greg, about the whole subscription thing. Star Trek Online actually went the opposite way. They were subscription based, and now
you can still get a subscription to Star Trek Online.
You can get like a legendary.
It's just a different. No, you can get a monthly.
Okay, well, you don't have to have the subscription anymore.
No,
it's gone over to free to play. Yeah, well, so. Oh, I think we may have lost Hightower again.
Oops.
His Discord loves him halfway through this. But yeah, it's as you're saying, it's quite an interesting time right now. Seeing a lot of the free to play stuff popping out, and obviously Egosoft's a slightly different concept. Egosoft is just you buy it once, you play it, and jobs are good. And what I was going to say was it must be quite interesting and ironic at the same time that the people you idolized and the person you was is now the flip side. You're now the person talking to the journalists. You're now the people, the person that's going back to these people writing the small articles, reviews and stuff like that. It must be quite surreal to be on that flip side now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really lucky, I think, right? I'm basically in the dream industry that I always wanted to be in. I'm doing the stuff in that industry that I always wanted to do. So I can't complain.
So you kind of head in the transition through that stage. What actually made you kind of move over to the Egosoft side of things?
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, we were only.
Yeah, we were just at the free to play. We got excited with free to play.
we still have a couple of years to go. Yeah. So I left Gameloft in 2015, I think. Yeah, 2015, and wanted to do something different back then, and that's how I ended up like totally out of nowhere, never thinking I was gonna get that job, to be honest, when I applied. But that's how I ended up at what was called back then the BIU in Germany. And what that is that's the trade association of the German games industry. So in the US, that's the ESA, and in the UK, that's UKIE, UKI. So what it is, like really short, it's lobbying, right? It's political lobbying for video games to make the industry, to make the circumstances for the industry better in those specific countries. And so that was again something completely different, a really different perspective. And obviously, I'm not a I don't have a huge interest in politics or anything like that. So I wasn't the lobbying guy, but I was doing the marketing and member service and stuff like that. But that was really cool. Also for a couple of years, it was really interesting. But then at some point, I really felt like I wanted to go back into actual games, like into actual games as products, accompanying them throughout the release and everything like that. So early 2019, I started looking for something new, and was also at the same time thinking about going, like after 10 years in Berlin, moving back a little closer to home. And home is actually in Belgium, but really close to where I'm now, to where Egosoft is located. And so out of pure luck, again, I find a job opening on the Egosoft website, specifically looking for a marketing and PR all-rounder. And that just immediately spoke to me, because that's how I always saw myself. I'm doing a lot of different stuff, never having the same day, which is what I love. And yeah, I really traditionally applied. That was back when GDC was just about to happen in 2019. So got an email from Bernd, who was just leaving for the flight to San Francisco, saying, "Yeah, listen, I'm flying to GDC right now, but let's talk next week." And then it went fairly quickly. Like we had a couple of chats, and I flew over to meet Bernd in person and see the studio and everything. And a couple of months later, my wife and I, we moved from Berlin to Aachen, which is the town we're in now. And yeah, that's that. And now I'm back into actual games, and the first time actually into PC games, and working with a PC game.
Yeah, because obviously most of what you've done is mobile-based games up until this stage. So
yeah, and the esports stuff was, of course, working with games, but not specifically, not one specific title, right? And so back in my head, of course, I always wanted to work on a proper, like, PC console game, wherever. And yeah, that's where I am now, and I'm pretty happy about that.
That's awesome, and it's definitely, you were saying earlier on, you were saying it was lucky, but as Babe with the Powers just said there, you may have been lucky, but you certainly worked your way into that. That's some going that.
Yeah, it's more like being at the right place at the right time, something like that.
But you've had to put in all that work beforehand, though, the free stuff that you've done, basically, the stuff you've done out of pocket, to now being exactly where you want to be, doing almost your dream job.
Yeah,
I'm not jealous at all.
No.
Hightower, you got anything you want to ask while we got this moment?
Oh yeah. I mean, I got lots I want to ask. Where do you want me to start?
Start from the top.
Okay. You mentioned way back that, you're part of a small organization, but the space you're competing in is absolutely huge. You're looking at a market that numbers in the billions worldwide. How do you tackle something like that? How do you even begin to look at that, look at that pie and slice that down to something you can manage?
Well, the good thing I'm gonna say for me is that it's not necessarily, I mean, it's not a new company, right? Egosoft is actually one of the two oldest games companies in Germany that still exist. So the company has a history, and the company has a has a following, definitely, right? The X Games
are we back to that cult following now?
Well,
Going
it's only
back
a
to the
problem when they
beginning,
start breaking out the Kool-Aid.
Awesome.
No, but it's what I mean to say is that we're not starting anything from scratch nowadays, right? We're building on what we have, and that is, of course, a big plus point for us. So we have these people who know our games, and Egosoft hasn't done anything different than the X Games, anything other than the X Games since 1999, right? So people know who we are. We have a pretty strong identity, I'd say.
You must have a fairly established fan base that's, I don't want to say super opinionated, Mike, but you must have to, like, I don't want to say deal with a lot of input from the fans, but you must get a lot of input from the fans.
Oh yeah,
Oh
definitely.
yeah, I've beaten stuff at him already. Like, this doesn't work. Get it fixed. Like, I don't do anything with it. What are you asking me?
So you're sitting there as the marketing person, the face of the company, going out there and speaking with these people. How do you relay that back to the dev team in terms of, hey, we've got, so many people saying multiplayer,
Yeah, we got this YouTuber who keeps giving me fucking hassle. How do I get rid of him?
You just get spritzed with water and get thrown in the corner. Go away.
Honestly, as I said earlier, giving the really low hierarchies and the small size of the team, it's much easier than one might think. I get a message somewhere. If it's if it's not full out rude stuff, I see what the actual question is. If ideally there is a question behind it, and then by now I know more or less who I should forward that question to. Like if it's something about missions, I forward it to person A, and if it's something about the engine, right, I forward it to person B. And then I get a reply from my colleagues, and I feed it back to the person who sent me a message. So it's fairly easy. Also, of course, because while we have a nice fan base, we're not Activision, or we're not Bethesda or something like that. Where people get I don't know how many
Super critical.
messages. Yeah, it can be a lot, of course, especially when we just release a new update or something like that. But it's all manageable, totally.
That's going off the back of what Hightower was asking there. There must be times where you're going to get every spectrum of a person, aren't you? You're going to get the guys who are going to go, that was an awesome content update, but you must have a lot of the other side of things, and try and compartmentalize that. That's where the challenge comes in. Because as you're saying, you've got to kind of sift through all the comments and questions and find the information you need to then pass on. Is that something you tend to find just happens throughout, or is it kind of, as you say, just when the content drops?
It happens throughout, but in more or less in waves, I'd say. Like the thing is with our game is that you don't start playing it, and after 10 hours you're gonna say, oh cool, that was a good Egosoft game. I'll write my review or whatever, right? Like people spend these crazy amounts of hours in our games.
No idea what you mean.
Yeah. This based on that, it's you get these waves. Like if people hit something where they can't progress, of course, then that's pretty important that they tell us, and ideally, they deliver the safe game and everything, so that my colleagues can actually try to reproduce it and see what's going on. And then the positive messages are a bit further spread out, I'd say, because if people start enjoying the game, they won't immediately write me a message or write a review or post a nice message on Reddit or whatever. They're gonna take their time playing the game, and at some point they might do that, or they might not. Which is also fine. generally said, I can only encourage everybody to post reviews on Steam because that's really helpful.
Yeah, so make sure you are posting your reviews, as he says. Make sure you get it out there. Egosoft. Greg from
And while
Egosoft,
you're
amazing guy.
while you're posting those reviews, don't forget to check out, some of the guides that might be there.
See, we're 2 for 1 here, Greg. We'll get the name out there. Don't you worry.
Oh, I've absolutely posted links to your playlist on as a reply on Steam reviews, definitely.
So this is why I get the. Oh yes, I was sent here, and I'm like, I didn't send you here. What are you on about? No, I must admit it having you said earlier on about having the smaller team and seeing from my side of things, obviously dealing with a smaller team, it is much easier. Like if I had my the videos I do on, say, I don't know, Far Cry, and I contact Ubisoft, I'm not going to get a response back. I'm not going to get the feedback. If I have a problem, like I know you've helped me with some of the things before, and I've said, I've had this little bit of an issue and that bit of an issue, and you've then gone, well, actually, I know this answer, but this answer here I'll get back to you about. You know what I mean? You don't get that feedback from a AAA rated game, and I'm saying AAA rated game because in my eyes, Egosoft is almost AAA, but I know it does come under the classification as an indie game because of the size of the development team. Definitely having that scope, it gives the experience a completely different turn of things. I can actually go to you and go, check this out. What do you think? And you'll come back to me and go, yeah, it was a lot of shit. Don't bother with that. But you know what I mean? You've got a nice team to work with, and as you said, you get that nice fine balance. But in the same respective thing, I think a lot of people see sort of, obviously I myself and Hightower know there's a lot that goes on in the background that we don't see. If someone was to look at Greg from Egosoft or Egosoft itself, they'll see these odd posts coming out, but we know that there is a lot more to it. What's a typical Greg day for this?
Wait, first we need to know what your theme song is. What do you use for an alarm? We need to know how your day starts. Come on, let's get deep.
My alarm hasn't changed in, I want to say, maybe 10 years, and it's one of the tracks from the Hotline Miami soundtrack.
There we go. That's perfect.
That's the alarm.
See, I start my day with the Africa song that is it the Lion King one? When you one. Because it's the only thing that'll wake me up from my dead of sleep.
Animals, a bunch of animals. I start my day with Beethoven.
Wow.
No, you don't.
I do too. I can play it.
Fancy.
I'm Hightower. I am sophisticated.
Oh, yeah. I'll drink with my pinky up.
So, hey, that's not a bad start of the day, then, is it? Hey, I'm not posh. Hey. We need to get Monkey on here if we want posh British accents.
Right.
So go on. So what's the
topic at hand?
Yeah, what's the day of Greg?
Right. So I usually start by checking yesterday's numbers, more or less. I have a lot of lists that I keep updated every day to see how much copies we've sold, how much visitors the Steam page had, and stuff like that. First stuff in the morning is also generally checking like socials, seeing what happened on Twitter, on Reddit, and stuff like that. In the forums, of course, too, seeing if there's like I said earlier, already stuff that I have to forward to people. Excuse me. And then the typical day is really hard to define, to be honest. Like I have, it all depends what's on the plate at the moment. It might be talking to partners about sales that are coming up. It might be working on contracts for future potential cooperations with companies out of any field you might imagine. It could be, there's a lot of texting, of course, like putting text together, and for news, for newsletters, for social media posts, for announcements. As I said earlier, the whole funding thing is taking up quite some time of mine. Yeah, but the typical day is really, really hard, really, really hard to define. It's a big mix of stuff, and certain things can be planned, like, announcements are planned quite a while in advance, and as I have to start working on the texts that need to be translated into all those languages and everything, and working with my colleagues, specifically, for example, with the artists, to get my marketing artists for my marketing assets, for my graphical assets for any kind of announcement stuff. But a lot of it is pretty or pretty often very spontaneous stuff. Like, I get an email in the morning from somebody about something, and that might be important and has to be reacted to. So plans have to change quite often, and stuff has to be moved around quite a lot. But that's what keeps it very exciting, right?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what you said at the start, isn't it? It's the fact that not one day is the same day. And I'd just like to say, Captain Collins, thank you for the follow. That is a name I definitely recognise, and I appreciate you checking by. So yeah,
hey, Captain.
Absolutely love your content. While we're here, if you haven't already, make sure you do check out Captain Collins. He's also another X4 content creator as well. He's awesome. I love
and a very nice guy.
Yeah, definitely. I love watching his content. So I really appreciate you stopping by, Captain Collins. That's made my night. That has. Thank you. But yeah, going back to what you were just saying there, as you said, every day is a completely different day, and I envy you, but sometimes I'm thinking to myself, Jesus, some of them days must be pretty tough, because, as you say, you could get up one day and you're like, oh dear, the whole world has dropped.
And people have lost their minds.
Yeah. And as Baby the Power just said there, she was saying, sometimes it's the positive comments you don't get back. It's always the negative comments. And I've certainly seen that myself. And to deal with that on a daily basis, you need a medal just for that.
I mean, that's pretty normal, right? It's the same with everybody who sells products or who does something for other people. You get the messages from the people who are unhappy about something. But you get used to that, I'd say. Yeah. And you always have to if there's something that is like really hitting you hard, or a message that's especially bad or something like that, you always have to remember that there are tons of people who love what you're doing, and you don't necessarily get that immediate feedback, but it is there somewhere. And
you don't get to keep doing what you do like that for as long as you guys have been doing it without doing something right.
Yeah, exactly.
But are you Belgium native?
Yes, I am.
But I'm presuming you speak fluent German then.
Yeah, that's a funny side note. A bit of European history for you. Belgium actually has 3 official languages, so it's French, Dutch, and German.
Yeah, I was. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
There's this tiny part, like, along the German border, that is actually officially German speaking, and German native speakers. And it's like only 70,000-80,000 people, I think. I hope I'm not getting bad messages from home now.
The pitchforks are coming back out again.
Oh, the pitchforks and the torches. It's happening.
They're going to throw the chocolate and the fries at me because I set the number wrong. No, I think it's more or less 80,000 people that are native German speakers in Belgium. And it's historically, it's been this part of Belgium has been moved around. It was originally it was German for a while, and then after the Second World War, it was brought back to Belgium and stuff like that. So that's long answer to a short question.
Well, I don't know if you may have picked up. Obviously I spoke to Bernd about that. I was actually posted to Germany when I was in the armed forces.
Okay.
I always get the pronunciation wrong, but basically Hameln.
Hanau?
Hameln. Hameln.
Hameln.
Hameln. Yeah. We used to call it Hameln, which is actually the original story of the Pied Piper. Pied Piper of Hamelin. Yeah, you actually go around there, and you've got like a bridge with a giant, a giant golden rat. You've got like I think it was like at midday or something like that. The thing, like a little tune will start playing, and there's a clock house, and the Pied Piper comes out the clock house with the with the little things. I think it's the children following him. So it's a lot of history there. And I've actually been to Dusseldorf and Cologne, around them areas. So when I was speaking to Bernd about it, I was proper fanboy, because obviously I lived there for a couple of years, and obviously we got taught about Belgium and stuff like that, and the crazy language. You can go through Belgium and hear about 50 different dialects as you're going through there. You're like, what? I thought you speak Belgium. And it's like, no, I speak French. I'm like, oh. Yeah. It's such a small country.
French and enough German to say I don't know any French and I don't know any German, and that's about it.
It's absolutely crazy.
It's quite fun, because growing up there, you don't really think about that kind of stuff. But then I remember one of the funniest experiences I had with an ex-girlfriend when we were driving to the Belgian coast, and the languages change, right? You go from the French-speaking part into the Dutch-speaking part, but not only the language of the people changes, but sometimes the names of towns change. So you're driving on the highway, and if you don't know this, like I only realized then, if you have no idea, you drive for 10 kilometers, and then you don't find the name of the city anymore on the signs.
When did that city just disappear?
I don't know. It's really weird, because I had never thought about that, but she was so baffled about that. It's really funny. And then it's a lovely country. It's a little weird for me always, because having grown up in that German speaking part, some people say those are the truest Belgians, because they incorporate all the different things that make the country, so to say.
Are they the ones you want to go for your bakery stuff? Are they the ones that you want for the bakery stuff? Belgian buns.
Right. Is there a competition like the truest Belgian?
Oh, don't get me started on that.
We might be starting another World War here. Don't be doing that.
Oh Lord, no! I'm all the way across the world. I'm not trying to start anything.
It's actually a huge topic, because it's let's put it that way. Especially the French-speaking people and the Dutch-speaking people in Belgium are not necessarily best friends, so to say. And there have been like huge phases of not having a proper government. Actually, I think we still hold the world record of longest time not having an acting government, because people keep arguing about everything, right? And so us there in the German-speaking part, we try to stay out of that mostly.
It's like French Canada, then. Is that how it is?
I know. I mean, they're on one side.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, you go on.
No, I was just going to say, having that kind of thing, because obviously you're German native speaking, but the most unpopular fact that people tend to go to is that the most used language is English language. Now, obviously, for myself, for yourself, and all that lot, a lot of stuff you do is English spoken, And I think we can gather from today's podcast, your English is extremely well. It's probably better than my English, which you tend to find because you obviously learn English in a different way, and we just bastardize it. It must
But when
be.
I say it, it's a problem.
Hey. But it must be hard. Like this is probably a twofer question. This is to kind of having your native German speaking in a native German company to then have English written information and stuff like that. It must sometimes be quite difficult to kind of get at. Do you find that you sometimes have problems with things like that?
Not really, because the games industry is very, very international. So Egosoft might be based in Germany, and obviously it still has a lot of German players and everything. But we speak English in the company. There's unless I'm talking to Bernd in a one-on-one meeting or something like that, or any of the other German colleagues. If there's team meetings, it's English, and that's pretty common in the games industry, also in Germany in general. As soon as you have more than only Germans in the company, then most companies switch to English as the day-to-day language. What is a bit tricky is the fact that our players sometimes have a problem with understanding English, right? So we, like, compared to other video games, I think we have a bit older target audience, or a player focus group, so to say, the age ratings. And you're gonna have quite a lot of people who don't understand English in that group. And with most announcements and news and everything, we, as I said earlier, we translate that, of course. But now, for example, with the podcast, we're doing that in English, of course, because we can reach more people that way. But the German speakers have issues then, right? Fortunately, there are always nice people on the forums, that will translate a summary or something like that. So in the whole language topic, that's the only somehow a negative point, I would say, that I can think of in that regard. But in terms of team communication, it's really not an issue at all.
Oh,
Now, German is a beautiful language, and it seems to have a word for absolutely everything. Do you ever find yourself at a loss for that word in English?
Oh, totally. Yeah, that happens. I mean, I'm not a native English speaker, right? So that happens all the time. And
it happens for the native English speaking people too. I'm just gonna
Get the
go.
English
Okay,
word for it.
yeah, I'm just gonna okay, there you go, done.
Yeah.
It's amazing, it really is. It's mind blowing just to think about stuff like that. Is the fact that like I said to you just then, is a native German game, a native German speaking team. To the most part, obviously, I know you've got international team now, and I remember actually seeing one of your posts in German, and I'm like, oh yes, I forgot he's German, and it did dawn on me. But then I was like, oh yes, and then I was trying to read it. I'm like, it's been too long since I've spoken German to try and read that. But as you were saying,
I mean, every now and then, if there's like a big German games magazine that is doing something on us or about X4, then of course I'll do a German tweet every now and then, or a German news on the website and stuff like that. But yeah, generally speaking, we do the Facebook and Twitter stuff, and Reddit, of course, in English, just to reach more people.
Yeah, it's do you find, obviously, social media and stuff like that, it's all down to your own kind of personal drive. Like I know you were saying earlier on, Egosoft has its own following already, and it does. And some of them are extremely passionate.
Yeah, they are.
To the point of if you do something wrong, they're going to come for you with the pitchforks
And torches. Don't forget the torches.
Yeah, and the torches. It's do you find that the industry follows that kind of same pattern? Because you obviously your background is along the lines of Germany. You know, we're talking about the mobile games earlier on. That was all based in Berlin. Do you find that kind of ties in with your kind of your social media side of things, or do you find there is really just a balance throughout?
So specifically for X4, I think having that target audience or that player group that is a little older generally leads to people being nicer, I'd say, or let's say nicer than what I have experienced in previous jobs. Of course, it doesn't mean that that only people in their 50s are playing X4. That's absolutely not the case, right? But I think that's something that you can connect to each other. I think generally, I'd say it's really balanced. The negative stuff mostly comes in Steam reviews or on Steam forums. That's always a little bit more how to say.
So even
Here
I
we
can't
go.
put a word to
I like that.
Yeah. No, but you know what I mean, right? It's not only for X4. I mean,
yeah, I bet with the power just hit there respectful. I think
right.
that kind of sums it up, doesn't it? It's like, you know, the kind of respect you're getting on, isn't it?
Yeah. And you have the channels where people are more positive, and you have the channels where people are a little more negative. But all in all, I think it's fairly balanced, to be honest.
That's awesome. Hightower, do you have anything else you'd like to ask Greg?
I mean,
there's
I
a
could sit
million
sit
things.
here all night and try and pick his
Yeah.
brain,
Yeah.
honestly. But you know, in respect of the context and the time, no, I'll say no.
Yeah, I was
It's not.
fangirling over Burned, and I'm still fangirling over Greg. It's like, yeah.
I'm just a sponge. I'm
You'll
soaking this
make me
up.
blush.
Well, it's different, isn't it? Because I mean, right here now, you've got somebody who's a massive fan of games. Hightower, you know, he's retro games. He's today's games. You know, as you look behind him, memorabilia. You know what I mean? Massive geek. Love it.
Not just behind me, but as soon as we get done with this, I'm going away.
Nice.
But then obviously you got myself who does the content side of things, and I'm obviously trying to do the guides. I'm trying to do well, we're trying a new thing with reviews, and then you've got somebody like yourself who's behind all of that, and you're like, how can you picture that until you've spoken? Obviously today we've spoken to you and kind of gotten a glimpse into your world, and it's like, wow, it's like you don't even put into perspective the things that go into, you know, a successful game. And that's one thing Egosoft definitely have done, is made a successful game. Well, made more than one successful game. But
And as like Rugged said, a huge game fan, I've got to say, every time I sit down for one of these, like with Burned or with you, I'm a little fanboy inside, you know, going, oh my God, these are the people who do, you know, I may have read stuff you wrote as a games journalist because like you, I was in those magazines, like I lived in those articles. You know, it amazes me how just human you people are.
Yeah, I can totally relate, right? It's as I said earlier, the phase in the 90s when I was reading those magazines. If I like nowadays, it's still the same. Like if I like one of my favorite games, just to give you one example. Oh no, actually another example, even funnier. I was in during that time at the trade association. I was in charge of a German country booth, so to say, at a Tokyo Game Show. And in the morning, I go to breakfast in my hotel, and I'm standing at the buffet, and you know, putting my rice on my plate and everything. And then I look to my right, and I see these really funky sneakers on the guy next to me, like bright colors and everything. Oh wow, those are some really neat sneakers. Cool, dude. So, you know, I don't look up. I take my plate, I go to my table, I start eating, and then I look up and like I must have turned completely white immediately. Because the guy with the cool sneakers was Hideo Kojima.
No
Oh my
way!
I'd lose it. See, that's one of my biggest fears. I'm gonna run into to one of my idols and just be like, who? Huh?
Yeah. So it was so surreal, because out of all
Wow.
the hotels around that Tokyo Game Show venue, um, he was right there. And then it gets funnier because, of course, I get totally fanboy alert, right? And as a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, and
Oh, I'd have a meltdown.
so I'm like, okay, what am I doing now? I can't leave here without either talking to him or ideally getting a selfie with him, right? As the kids do. And so I'm like, okay, I'm also definitely not gonna just jump on him and disturb his breakfast there. And he was there with his assistant, who's always buzzing around him. If you've seen videos on shows, you probably know her. So I start eating, but very slowly.
Oh, don't make it weird. Don't make it weird.
Yeah.
And then at some point, my colleague comes
breaking
downstairs, sits next to me, starts having his breakfast too, and I'm like, listen, I don't want to be rude, but as soon as this person in the corner back there gets up, I will have to get up too and run after him. It has nothing to do with you.
Oh,
And the colleague didn't really know. It was the guy who built the actual booth, so he has no idea who that person is, right? So when we're chatting, and I'm always keeping an eye on the other table, and then he gets up, and I'm like, okay, see you later in on the show floor. I have to go. So
the entire plate of food still there.
Pretty much.
Because you're eating it so slowly.
I get up,
that's
run
great.
after him, and actually I know a couple of words of Japanese because I did some Japanese at university back in the days. And so I asked him if we could take a quick picture, and he was the nicest guy, and no problem at all.
Yes.
Had his Death Stranding T-shirt on, and that was like one of the coolest memories of the time in the games industry.
I'm just wondering what the starting conversation was. Hey, cool sneakers, bro. Oh, that's brilliant. You completely true though. You do not know who you could walk into with this. I mean, obviously we've had COVID hit, so most of the gaming side of things, like the conventions and stuff like that, have gone virtual over the past year. So unfortunately, the plan for myself is to get out there and do it. But I fear one day that, so like for example, until today, I hadn't seen yourself. We were voice only. Text. I typed to you. I'd say we keep a good rapport. I send random shit to you all the time. But you know what I mean? Like, and if I'd have bumped into you at a gaming convention, I'd be like, hey, cool sneakers, bro, and just carried on. You know what I mean? I do fear that one day I will bump into somebody that I'll not realize who it is, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have a meltdown. Right. What do I do?
10 minutes later, somebody's going to go, hey, you know that was Hideo Kojima, right? And be like, oh,
shit. But as you say, the Metal Gear Solid, basically he is Metal Gear Solid, isn't it? So yeah, you couldn't miss up on an opportunity like that. You had to have a selfie.
No, I mean that's never gonna happen again, right?
Exactly.
There's no way I'm just leaving that breakfast room.
I bet you still got his pic. I bet you still got the picture somewhere, haven't you?
Oh, of course, of course.
You don't get rid of something like that.
No, as soon as you walk through Greg's front door, it's there.
Life size, blown up.
Yeah. I am that guy. I'm that guy who ate the breakfast so slowly I left the entire thing, but I still got a selfie.
Right? Hey, that's brilliant. I would have done the same thing.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
me. I'm not gonna hide it. That's me.
Oh hell no, no! I'd be proud of that. I'd be all over that myself. That's awesome. But it's just it goes to show really you do not know from the days of you writing to a magazine to the days of you now behind the scenes at Egosoft running. As you're saying, you're dealing a lot with the financial side of things. With the funding.
Mhm.
Hopefully, we'll see you. At the conventions as well. I'm presuming, obviously, Egosoft plan to be there and stuff like that. It'll be, it's just it's surreal to think where you've come from, where you are now. Um, if you had any advice for anybody going into your line of work, other than don't,
No, don't say that.
what would be your advice to somebody who is looking into something for this?
Oh, that's tough.
Hey, I didn't say I wasn't going to put you on the spot.
I think what's really what helped me, and I think what's really important is if you have something that you like really feel strongly about and that you live for and that you believe in, then you shouldn't hesitate in following that, even if it brings like some insecurities or situations where things might not be guaranteed. If let's say a big move or whatever might be connected to that. Yeah, short, follow your dreams, I guess. It sounds really cheesy, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you
No,
moved
that's
from
perfect.
Belgium to Berlin. That's a pretty
Yeah,
big
I mean,
move.
yeah, okay. I mean, it's big in continental European terms, but that's it's not a life-changing move, right? It's the same language, and I was used to Germany before that, but it's seeing opportunities, it's following them, it's taking a chance, definitely. Um, and yeah, sometimes going the maybe rocky road. Is that something you can say?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. But Hightower, do you have anything relevant to the topic to ask Greg?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
I'm just
I mean,
clarifying there because he will ask you everything, and I'll be like, no, we don't have several hours, Hightower.
Oh, we
no,
should
but
we
what
should do this again, and we
that's
should
what I
we
was
should
gonna say.
maybe yeah, not focus so much on me, but on the general game stuff. And
Yes,
I'd
definitely.
love to hear.
That
Yeah.
will be awesome. Yeah, because
One of these days we're gonna do it at a convention. We're all gonna be there. We're gonna have to
Oh,
do it
definitely.
like in
Yeah, have a
person,
couple beers. Perfect.
right?
yes. Yeah. Favorite beer? Go on.
Oh, favorite beer. Well, I like as a Belgian, I have to be a beer snob. So
Yes, I
I'm
know. That's why I'm asking because my ex's mum's partner, he's been to Belgium, and the amount of collection of beers and stouts and stuff like that is insane. So
yeah. So my favorite one is right now is called Triple Karmelit. It's so triple. It's a fairly strong one. Yeah, blonde, strong one, and
oh, a blonde beer.
that's pretty good.
There you go. So a little bit of something personal about Greg there for anybody who's a fan
Good.
of Greg. I know Captain Collins is a fan of. He said earlier on, you're such a nice person, and he's not wrong. You are. Yeah,
Aw, thank you. I'm a fan of Captain Collins too.
yeah. I love watching his content, so it's awesome. It's awesome to see
Yeah,
him
he's
here
great.
tonight. But as he said, you are an extremely nice person, and you're an approachable person, which is amazing considering some of the shit you might have to put up with over the time. So you know. Yeah, exactly. That's my thoughts. Exactly. I'm thinking the same thing. Captain Collins. He says, "Now we know what to get him as a gift." I'm like, yes, we'll get that noted down. So when we get to the conventions, we'll be like, here's your triple blonde.
Oh wait, triple blonde. Oh, I thought we were talking about something completely different. I'm gonna get poked.
But no, honestly, Greg, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us tonight. I know, as I said earlier on, it wasn't easy getting to this stage, but we definitely would like to have you back on again. And talk more about the gaming industry rather than about yourself. But today was to find out about you, about what you do, and not necessarily about the Egosoft side of stuff, but as a general thing. And as I say, I know
the introduction, introduction episode.
Yes, exactly.
That's it, exactly. New character, everyone.
Yeah. So I just want to take this minute now. First of all, to say thank you. But is there anything you'd like to say to those who are watching now before we wrap things up?
Thanks for having me over. It was really fun, and I'll gladly be back to chat about our gaming histories and all kinds of other shenanigans. And and thank you, of course, for the things you do. I mean, as I said earlier, I've been sharing your channel and your playlists every now and then. Whenever somebody asks for some videos, it's typically your link. It's typically Captain Collins' links too, of course. It's Werit, who also does great videos, and tons of more, right? Like if there's a French guy writing me a message, then I'll send him a French influencer, French content creator. So yeah, thank you guys for your work. It's really cool to see that.
Thank you. Without you, I don't think my job would be possible because the amount of interaction we have. So thank you so much for the kind words. I appreciate that.
That's what I'm here for.
it's quite smart that actually what you were saying. You have a French person speaking to you, give it. You get a French influencer there, and it's like even I wouldn't have thought about that. It's all these little things you got to be thinking about. And it's funny you should mention Warwick. I'm keeping an eye out for Warwick. I know what he's doing. He's keeping an eye out for all my interviews, and then he's digesting them all. I know what he's up to. I had a random message from somebody in my Discord and said, Warwick's mentioned you, and I'm like, no, he's not. And it's about the same size as myself and Captain Collins. I mean, I think Captain Collins is a little bit bigger than myself, and I was like, no, so another YouTuber, no. And sure enough, he'd be like, and the Rugged Gamer's just done an interview with Bernd, and I was like, you swine. He was awesome. So yeah, hopefully he'll catch up on this as well. So yeah, definitely check him out, and definitely check out Captain Collins. And if you are a fan of Egosoft, then make sure you do check them out as well online through your Twitters. You're on YouTube as well.
I think we're pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, you're just everywhere. Yeah, just make sure you do check out Egosoft. Greg is the face behind it now. You know who he is. You know who it is. Who's the one putting everything out, which is absolutely awesome. I love the fact that we get to see the people behind what you guys are doing. So thank you for doing that for us. A massive appreciation.
Thank you.
I think we'll wrap it up there, so you can because you're an hour ahead of us, so you must be wanting to wind down a little bit now. Yeah. So we'll wind it down. Thank you very much, Captain Collins, for the subscription there. I appreciate that, buddy. You caught me just before I was about to say goodbye there, so thank you. I appreciate that a lot. But yeah, hopefully get. Well, there's no hopefully about it. We'll get you back on again. We'll talk a little bit more about our gaming ventures. So if anybody does have any questions for Greg, whether it be
I do. Oh, not me. No, okay, never mind. Sorry. Go ahead. Carry on.
You good now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on a serious note, if you've got any questions or comments or anything like that for Greg, then obviously you can go directly through me, or you can go to Greg himself. Belgray is your Twitter handle, obviously, or you can catch him on Egosoft as well. So if you've got any positive comments, make sure you leave them as well. But thank you so much, Greg, for joining us again. We really do appreciate it, and hopefully we shall see you soon.
Thank you for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. From myself, thank you very much for joining us again. I think we may have lost Hightower again just at the end, so I'll have to kind of go. I'll have to do your food eating thing and go a little bit slower until he goes back on.
No, that's fine. Don't bother waiting for me. That's my standard 2 Discord crashes per podcast.
Eat slower. So Hightower, do you want to finish off with anything?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just gonna crash again if I start talking.
So Hightower, thank you again for joining us.
Well, buddy.
And it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you all. So, as I say, if you've got any questions, comments, or if you want to see any more from Greg, then please let me know. If you've got some topics you'd like us to cover in the future, whether it be Egosoft. Remember, obviously, Greg isn't massively involved in the Egosoft. He does, the PR side of things. So if there's anything related to that, then please let us know. In either Discord or via one of us directly. But until next time, everybody, I think I'm going to let him go, let him escape. So again, as always, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. We really do appreciate you all joining us for the podcast. If you want to catch it in its entirety, then do make sure you check it out on YouTube, where I'll be placing it on there, and also on the podcast as well. You can get it on what have I put it on now? On Spotify. I've got it on Spotify. And also make sure you check out Egosoft as well, which is on Spotify. And I think you've got it pretty much everywhere there as well. A couple of episodes there, so do check that out. It's absolutely awesome. And it's good if you're into the X universe to have a listen to that. So thank you very much, everybody. And I shall see you all on the next one. Bye-bye for now.